So now we'll begin our final step in our Excel analysis. Previously, we took a look at the home versus wins and did a frequency distribution for the winner. Now that's a frequency distribution of a categorical data. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to take a look at a continuous variable, and we'll take a look at score differential. So that's the difference between the home score minus the visitor score. That's the calculated field that we created earlier. So what we're going to do here, we need to identify that what are called bins, the range of values in which we're going to calculate the frequency. So if we take a look at our earlier statistical calculations of the min and max, we see for score differential, we have score differentials ranging from -27 to +22. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create bins, let's say from -30 to +30. That will capture this range of min and max, and then I will use that for my frequency distribution. So what I'm going to do is create a new tab. Click on here, create a new tab, rename it. I'm going to call this Histogram. Enter. So this is where I'm going to create a histogram. So I begin by identifying my bins. I'm going to call these are my score differential. And then I want to go from -30 to +30. So begin with -30, -29, but I'm not going to type all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select those two, and I can do an auto-populate. Excel's smart enough to know that I was trying to do a range of numbers, and I'll drag that down until I get to -30, or +30, excuse me. There we go. All right, so now I'm ready to create a histogram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that Data Analytics ToolPak that we installed in Excel earlier. Click on Data, and there it is, Data Analysis. So I click on that there, and what I want to do is I want to create a histogram. So I click on OK. Now I identify my input range, and those are going to be the score differentials from the raw data on the game log tab. So when I click on the up arrow here, I'm able to now go out and select that. So I click on the game log tab. I'm going to do a control up arrow to get to the top. I'll click on cell K2, and that's the first score differential. Control shift down arrow to select all the values. And there I will click on this button again, and that will return me to my form. Now what I need to do is select the bin range, and those are going to be the -30 to +30 numbers that I created earlier. So I click on the up arrow. But I'm also going to include that column header. That makes the results look a little bit better. Control shift down arrow, and then the arrow again, and that's my region there. So now I want to make sure that my results include labels, and I have a chart output. And I also I don't want to put the results in a new tab. I just want to be able to include that on the same histogram tab here. So I'm just going to identify my output range, and going to up arrow, and I'll just put this at C1. There we go, down arrow. All right, so now when I click on OK, and this is the output that I get. So I can see the score differential and the frequency, and here's my histogram. So that it was charted here. So I'm going to move this over and make this a little bit larger so we can see the results. So here the score differential, and then the counts for the number of times that score was achieved. -27 occurred one time, and -1 occurred 7,886 times. All right, so what we can do here is under the Design tab, we can take a look at different options to format it differently. And every time we hover over something, it will give us a preview of what this is going to look like. So let's just go with this one. This time we do start at 0 and go all the way up to, this time in terms of 14,000. And we have the frequency and then score diff. We're just going to actually spell this out rather than using that abbreviation. I'll call this a score differential. And then frequency is just fine. So Here's our histogram, our frequency distribution of scores, and you can see it's just slightly right skewed, mostly because of that score differential of 1, where quite often the home team wins by 1 point, which is interesting. So here what we did was using a histogram to create a frequency distribution of continuous data. And we can see that the results, this is more complex than our previous categorical distribution, but we can see a lot of information about the distribution by doing this histogram, so that we can see that it is somewhat normal with a slight deviation of a difference of a 1 point lead at the end of the game. But otherwise, the data looks pretty evenly distributed. So that gives us some additional insight into the data and can also answer some questions that quite often the home team does win by 1 point. So there's some information that we gleaned from this histogram.